Welcome back. Today's video is Q&A part 2. Last time I did this was 3 years ago, but it's going to be interesting doing it again because my most active followers have changed now, and more importantly, I have changed. It's been a while since I was 13, and you know, it's going to be interesting because my taste in movies grows all the time. So anyway, I was able to get a lot of questions that will be answered in this video. If you asked a question, thank you very much. First question that one of you guys asked is, who is your favorite Spider-Man? My favorite Spider-Man, I would say, is by far Tom Holland. Not only does he get to interact with people like Robert Downey Jr. from the MCU, but I think he's also got the most teen spirit in him, the most heart, the most relatability, and he's also the funniest one in my opinion. I know a lot of you guys prefer Tobey Maguire, but personally I wasn't the biggest fan of those movies growing up. I know a lot of you were though. And I think Holland really brings out that energy of someone trying to balance being a high schooler and a kid and also being a superhero, because like Uncle Ben says, with great power comes great responsibility. And there's also Spider-Man Far From Home coming out next year, and Stan Lee even said that Holland is the age and height that he envisioned when writing Spidey. Next question asked is, this was actually asked by my brother. He said, what is the best movie of 2017? My favorite, personally, was Baby Driver because of how action-packed and entertaining it was. The cast was terrific, the music was excellent, the directing and editing was like nothing I'd seen before. I had such a blast watching this movie in theaters. But I'd say the most Oscar-worthy in terms of acting and script would be 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, which I was really impressed by, but I was not impressed that the Oscars did not choose it for Best Picture. Next question, also from my brother. This question is, favorite Marvel movie? I would say Captain America Civil War is still to this day my favorite because of the twists and turns that one went, and I was usually used to seeing a similar Marvel formula. Even though they tend to try something new, I think this one completely ditched the formula and went for a completely different story structure than any superhero movie ever, and the tension between the characters was really well done as well as the plot itself. And it was awesome seeing that many characters for the first time, even though Infinity War had like 3 times as many. Next question is, what is the best horror movie of the year so far? I don't tend to see too many horror movies per year in the theater, but I did see a couple. I'd say the best one is Hereditary. Extremely well shot and written, and the acting and especially the scares and the tension are like no other movie. I was so on the edge of my seat till the end, and this movie was gory and haunting and everything a horror movie should be. Also, shout out to A Quiet Place, which I thought was a really interesting and well done, almost silent movie made by John Krasinski and starring him and his wife Emily Blunt. It's mostly in like sign language, but the tension and the visuals with the monsters were done super well. Alright, next question is, what are your opinions on Hollywood reboots versus remakes? I find remakes to be kind of unnecessary, but some tend to be good. Like, even the classics, like some of the movies that people love from the 80s are actually remakes, like Scarface from 1983, starring Al Pacino, is actually a remake, and so is the 1959 Ben-Hur. And I think remakes, I don't think just because a movie's a remake doesn't mean it'll be trash, but I think a lot of them do tend to be. But there are some upcoming ones like A Star Is Born and Suspiria that have gotten a lot of buzz from people, and I'm especially excited to see A Star Is Born. But reboots, I think, a lot of the time they're unnecessary, but sometimes they can be somewhat fun. Like, sometimes like Terminator Genesis, that stuff I did not like, but reboots like, I don't know, The Predator might be okay, but I think remakes usually have a chance to be better because a lot of the time people remake movies that aren't just blockbusters or monster movies, and then they have a chance of being better. Like, sometimes there's a reimagining from a different filmmaker of an older film, and that ends up being good sometimes. Next question is, which was your very first movie that you saw in theaters, and which one did you love first? Well, the first movie I saw in theaters was Madagascar back in 2005. I don't remember seeing it in theaters too well, but I do remember seeing it countless times ever since, and I'm pretty sure I did love it back when I was younger. I don't know, I haven't seen it in a long time, so I don't know if it still holds up when I'm 16, but yeah, that was a movie I really enjoyed when I was younger. Next question is, what do you think of Peter Jackson? I wouldn't say he's one of my favorite filmmakers, but I'm really impressed by what he's done, and I think he's a master at crafting visual epics, whether it's King Kong or the Middle-earth movies. I would say I'm not one of the biggest fans, but definitely a fan of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. I saw all 3 Hobbit movies in theaters, and I actually recently watched the 2005 King Kong that he made, and every time I watch a movie of his, I'm really impressed by the visuals that he comes up with. Alright, this person asked, what do you think of Jennifer Lawrence? I personally don't really see the hate to her. I do see the hate if people don't really like Katniss Everdeen or her over-the-top performances. Sometimes I like when she's able to really grasp onto a character, especially in the movie Silver Linings Playbook. I think when she's not in a big-budget film like The Hunger Games or X-Men, she tends to do a lot better because she can really get a good script that she can connect to and not just come back because she's part of a contract. I really liked her work in the new movie Mother. I don't know if you guys saw that, but she is just so good in that movie, whether or not you liked it. It was really divisive, but I personally found her overacting style to work specifically in that film. Next question is Quentin Tarantino or Martin Scorsese? Man, this is hard because I've been following them both for such a long time and they're both on my top 10 of all time. But I would say Tarantino. I've seen every single one of his movies, I believe, and not a single one of them failed to impress me. I'm so excited for his next movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which has Leonardo DiCaprio, and I love all of his movies from Inglourious Basterds and Kill Bill to Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs. Also Django Unchained. There's so many that I could name that I really enjoy. I love his gritty style, and I love his dialogue that's just out there and super weird but hilarious. I'm able to grip onto his scripts every time I watch one of his movies. But that's not to say that Scorsese's bad, because he isn't. I love his range of styles and emotions that he delivers through his movies, and especially his collabs with Leo and Robert De Niro, I think are especially impressive, and I love his organized crime movies like Goodfellas and The Departed. Next we have someone who asked, what movies tend to go unnoticed and you feel more people should praise or see? There's a movie this year that I thought was pretty underrated, and it's called Upgrade. It's a sci-fi movie that has a rather short runtime and a really good performance from Logan Marshall Green. It's not a perfect movie by any means, but I saw it in theaters and was able to really enjoy it. I like sci-fi a lot, especially when it comes to like really unique stories, sort of like Upgrade. It's got great action scenes and a really shocking ending that I thought about for a while. And yeah, if you haven't seen it, I haven't heard that much talk about it, and I'm glad I was able to check it out, and I've heard some talk about it, but I think more people should definitely see it. You should watch it if you haven't already. Next question is, what do you think is one example of the Oscars giving the award to the right person? Last time I completely agreed with their pick for best movie is Birdman. I really loved that movie. I was so intrigued by it when I first saw it in theaters. The style, cinematography, acting, all of it is really thought-provoking, and I was really glad they gave it to this movie. There was I remember a lot of debate between Boyhood and Birdman, but I was on the side of Birdman, and I'm glad they ended up giving it to that movie. Next question is, which depiction of the future in movie or TV do you think feels like it actually could happen? Here's a TV show on Netflix that I think is very overlooked, and it's called Black Mirror. If you don't know what it is, it's a series of sci-fi short stories. Each of them lasts about an hour, and they're all in some dystopian future where something's off because technology has improved society, but kind of for the worse. So season 3 episode 1 is the one I'm going to be talking about, and it takes place in a society where people's social ranking is based on their ratings, and I really think this was one of the most thought-provoking episodes and relevant episodes, considering how we rate other people now on social media and how much social media has an impact on people's lives. Next question is favorite director. I have 3 that I really admire, and those are Steven Spielberg, Christopher Nolan, and Tarantino. I love the way they make their films, their passion for it, and I try to never miss a movie that they make whenever it comes out in theaters. I've looked up to their films for a long time in the past, and I'm especially excited for what they have to come in the future. And this person asks, what do you think about the popular film category in the Oscars? I do think it's kind of unnecessary. I think movies like Black Panther and Infinity War should probably compete in the same categories as movies like First Man or A Star Is Born. You know, all that stuff should just be together. Apparently it's because people were upset that Get Out got nominated for Best Picture, and I think that's really dumb because Get Out deserved it. But there is the news that it got scrapped for this year, so I guess maybe in 2020 they'll start doing it, but because of the backlash it is not going to be presented this year. But I do think it's unnecessary when they could be focusing on stuff like stunts work for a new category. What movie inspires you the most and why? I'd say the movie that inspires me the most, and is also one of my all-time favorites, is Forrest Gump starring Tom Hanks. You know, the idea that it's not just a quote from the movie, it's also a big theme in the film. Life is like a box of chocolates because you never know what you're going to get. But it's also saying not just that Forrest compares life to that, but also because life is an adventure. You never know where life is going to go. Forrest has so many journeys in life. In the end, I think that movie, Forrest Gump, should inspire everyone to live life to the fullest, like Forrest does in that movie. And not only that, but also just the writing and the way Forrest speaks and the way Tom Hanks brings that role to the movie is also one of the reasons that I love it so much and why it's one of my favorites. So thank you for watching. I think I'll wait another 3 years to make a part 3 if I decide that. But once again, thank you for everyone who voted. If you haven't already, click on the like button and subscribe, and tell others to check this video out too. Comment any ideas for top 10s or whatever videos you want to see next, and I will see you again soon.